for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
Hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. Surprise, surprise. Let me explain. In my recent or latest video, which was about a month ago, I explained some of the reasons why I would stop appearing on the YouTube realm in the public video section. My work on Patreon, of course, with my diligent Illumined Union work and Ascension still continues. However, today I have a more important message to share. It is actually an urgent call. It is not another energy update from me, but a while ago I had a dream, and in this dream I saw myself giving another important urgent update. And when I woke up, of course, I was not really excited about this because I really actually am having a good time because I'm able to go deeper into my work now. Deeper, more insightful work, and to provide more substantial content this way, to focus on what truly is my purpose. So it came to no surprise that due to the recent events and unfolding after the current happenings, I realized that was the announcement, and this is the time, and this is what I have to speak about. This video will not be for everyone. This video will not be for all. But those of you watching, you all have a responsibility, because as you know, when God speaks, we listen. Which means that if you look and see this video, if you're watching this video, you already hold a responsibility, because we all do. I'm going to take a little back in the history of the sharing, and you know that for the recent 2.5 years, all I've talked about mostly, primarily, is transgression. And this energetic hypnosis, hijacking, an abomination which even Jesus Christ himself called the greatest Holocaust that ever existed in this creation. Recently, a while ago, at the beginning of this month actually, I went through another 2-week painful cycle, a very deeply painful cycle. And these were not new to me. However, in each cycle of the pain, as I was moving into these transgression energies and these archonic grid designs, I knew more about these energies than before. Also, I knew more about myself than previously. So each pain release wave that I had and I had to endure, which was several, you can imagine, in almost 3 years, that sort of sums up, it piles up. Each one brought me closer to understanding this phenomena, but mostly understanding myself, who I am as Aurea. I want to briefly explain this part and then go into that part which concerns all of us and all of life and creation. I want to speak to you today through the consciousness of Aurea, which I am and I embody. I am her embodied aspect. I don't exist outside of her. Everything I do is a part of Aurea's creation. My own life is not separate from her being. And she is quite a powerful being. She is truly a badass when it comes to this work. And even in the illumined realms and the realms of light beings, not every being, not everyone has the training that sort of is required for this kind of work. Also, not everyone in this realm currently that we say they're spiritual teachers, new age gurus, and many spokespeople that are very widely spread and very famous and known, know about this phenomena. They themselves don't know, so they of course can talk about it. This can only be experienced. And so, to give a little brief history in the making for those who perhaps are new and don't know what I'm talking about, but those of you who've been with me all this time, watching, tuning in, thank you. I would really like to thank you for paying attention, but today I want to take you deeper. I'm going to take you deeper into how you yourself are called by none other than God to assist this path. And Aurea is here to make that call as well. As one of the leading illumined beings on the surrounding project that this transgression work, dissolution, and refinement of lumen light, moving through this dark web of false light, what this is. And so I want to tell you that what I've been sharing in the past few years hasn't really been about me. Yes, it was my story. Yes, it was my experience. But when people nodded their head and they wanted me to talk about something else other than that, it's not possible. I cannot talk about anything else because right now, this time, in this universal sphere of life, this is the most important topic, subjects in all of the Illumined realms. Not all of the humanity know about this phenomena, but we do. And let me tell you, I cannot speak about things that are trivial. I cannot speak about things that people want me to out of their own personal will and agenda. I serve God. First and foremost, Aurea is a servant of God, of the Most High. And as I've shared with you before, this trinity called the Tantrikas, we don't even call ourselves a specific name. We don't brand ourselves by a name. We are self-assuring simply by the demonstrations of our lumen work and how it moves into life and creation and how it liberates many, many entrapments. And now we are all finding ourselves here. This is the main thing. This is the main threat. So the thing is that this is not a new phenomenon. However, used and applied here in this realm on Earth, it is still in a way rather new. Therefore, we are still in stages where it can be dissolved and worked with before it gets too much and too much out of hand. So, because this consciousness called the Tantrikas, who are basically the embodiers of the primordial divine trinity of life, that's all we are. And Tantrika means trinity. And that means our consciousness, as I was told years back, and now it finally makes sense with the story being complete. This consciousness was never embodied before. God said this form was never physical, it was never planetary. It was not involved with the evolution of a planet and human souls residing on the planet itself. But because situations started being so volatile and so demanding, I saw myself looking down into this creation, and there was absolutely something I had to do as the one who's trained and initiated into this, because we've been dealing with this phenomena for years. We're not new to this. Only one who fully understands this work can actually offer assistance. So no matter what I experienced as my human self, my human embodiment, going through stages of hijacking, victimization, control, electrocuting, all these things that these beings, these transgressors use for their own agenda, which is like madly scientific and enticing. And it is literally ensnaring many, many beings, especially the pure ones, the pure angelic star beings. And because it got so out of hand, we were the ones invited by Elohim themselves to come here, which is in a way how God works. God works through its servants, those who understand God as holy principles of cosmic law and then how to use it. God does not work through ego saying, I can do this, I can do that, but when it's time to do it, you don't, because you don't know how to, because you're all words and no action, okay? So in my own life, right, what I had to experience since my first awakening into what this is, what's being done, and what I'm witnessing, going back to when it first began, when I had my first memories of this energy kind of taking up my space, taking up my vehicle, and imposing the greatest inception, which is transgression against life, which means in no rule and application of cosmic law are beings or anyone is allowed to interfere with someone's sovereign vehicles, which means our sovereign body avatars. This is one of the greatest abomination of cosmic law. However, there's falsification of our agreements that they made into legally binding contracts, which are basically false. They're falsificates. And when they learn how to do that, they were able to proceed with their work. And not everyone understands this. But I've been trained through this. And as I've been going through these painful releases since the first time this happened, and in the beginning, when I was being transgressed myself and experimented on with these electroshots to literally speed up my evolutionary process so I could get information for these beings, because as an advanced being, I can get to any part of information they would think they need. thinking they can use my intelligence, my divine intelligence, to mine for information. And that's what they do on many. And they're unknowingly serving them because they don't know what they're doing. They think that this is for the light, and therefore being greatly deceived themselves. And when you can't see something because it's so hidden, it's the most dangerous factor that exists in this life, which we call the hidden enemy. One word, phantomic hidden enemy. So it took a while for me through these years to remember that all my life, all these years, and this year, I'm no youngie. This year I will be, I think, 39 already, years of physical age. And already I've gained such embodiment of what I know as what Aurea knows in spirit, taking it all through my examples and sacrificing myself for this, just so others could be free. All the star children that are still ensnared in this energy and trapped and hold captive in a way, right? So you have to understand what this is, how it works, and the healing methods. Return to love, return to God through your own journey. So for me, this was literally, in my own human experience of what Aurea is, a journeying back home. So as difficult and painful as it was, you can imagine being in such terrible pain. It's not even physical pain. It's jolting electric pain that, moves through your body. And since you don't know what to do in each cycle, you're surrendering to this divinity, this divine intelligence of your illumined aspects to help you. And that's what I've been doing through the past few years. Until this last breaking point, which was these last 2 weeks of this painful release, when I actually broke the final code. It was the final recipe for the liberation and for the salvation of the human aspect of the human being that didn't always know how to work with it. So you can have the knowledge, but the human hasn't yet fully retrieved that information. The key, the final key. And once I got it, and I started returning to that principle, things started shifting almost instantly. And I'm teaching about it now on my Patreon page. I made a dozen videos about this. And these are very important because I had to move through holograms, understanding falsificates, talking about Illumined agreements, talking about how these energies work, and it became very important. But still, I was the one doing this. I was the only one really breaking through and giving others what I disseminated through this. Something was still missing, right? So this last cycle brought a lot of introspection, and actually I was starting to be I started being trained to actually learn to dissolve holograms. I thought I was released, and then one night I was trained before bedtime to actually dissolve a hologram. I was learning the technique. I was being shown by my higher aspects, and God thanked these amazing beings that I called Illumined Arcturians. Basically, they're Aureas. That's how they're called. That's how I call them. They're amazing, pulsating like orbs of light, and they are tremendously intelligent. And without them, I would not be alive here. But it started with these beings, these transgressors, not knowing who I am. They did not know that Aurea lives in my body avatar. They did not know. They thought I'm just one of the star children. I'm one of the regulars that they can use and abuse to retrieve information for their agendas and purposes that are not of the light. They're not benevolent. But once they discovered it, that was the instance when they nearly killed me, right? When I was always almost sent through Stargate twice. Twice I had to literally pull myself back. I don't know where I'd end up, but luckily I am Aurea. I always end up home. I always end up where I need to be because I am that close to God. And I trusted. I knew myself. I knew how to do that. We had a plan. And I saw it through the journeying through this energies that basically we prepared like an ascension map for the liberation of these energies. How to, and many of our plans were hidden, even before myself. I even had to do it blindfold, as I already explained to you. And it was difficult because the last step, I was really struggling because I was using still a lot of the effort on my part. I didn't yet know how to do it effortlessly and without pain, which was the last step that I actually learned. And it was one of the most major victories we ever experienced, and I won't go into it here. All my mission updates are from now on, as you know, shared on Patreon, my Illumined dispensation work. And it is what it is. And this thing is very serious, and I will continue now explaining why this is so serious, right? So when these beings nearly found out what I am, what intention I came here for, when they started solving the puzzle that I'm actually here to liberate others, that we, as one group of beings who hold that specific purpose and why we're here on the earth, and it's difficult to be living here so many years and you realize that your whole life you were preparing for something that you didn't even know you're preparing for, and only now all the training, all the skills from before are finally adding up together for me, and they're making all of the sense why it had to be this difficult, why I had to go through. Because let me tell you something, what I realized through this journey is that I never was a victim of this. I never unconsciously just ended up here being a part of this phenomena. I was a being who entered this embodiment consciously with a mission, and one mission goal is to expose this energy, break through, be the first one to put it out there, connect the energies, but I didn't yet know the full part. So in this last stage of the journey, when I was getting my answers how to return to love and work effortlessly, which is what we talked about on Patreon, and how to do this, and what is that final key, I also learned something different, because it was very hard and I struggled doing this alone, and I was doing it alone and alone and alone. And that final key, I finally found myself. We started working as a group. We started calling our Illumined presence in the team. And one day we go outside, we're sitting on a meadow, and I actually came in this sudden awareness. Oh my goodness, we have to now start, we're ready. We were separated because what the transgression does, it isolates its subjects that you basically can't connect to. So what these energies do, what these beings do, is they cut the link between one's being, that is their star being or their starborn aspect or their soul aspect, that is, we would say, one of the star beings, and their human child, and it disconnects. So there's trauma that they themselves create, and because of this trauma, it creates like this temporarily, almost like an impenetrable bubble. And through this bubble, because there's no real communication in an illumined way, right? It has to be an infinite flow. The portals of our inner self have to constantly be in flow. You have to receive this illumined intelligence of God. And then you can make the steps, and you always receive. But what this energy and what these beings do, they do so many corrupt things. They go even to the extent and the lengths to hijack these souls' original creation angel names. So as you know, when you're first birthed into existence, the great Godhead speaks your name. Your name is spoken. Literally, you are being named. Your aspect that is being birthed names itself. And you would say, I am, and I, like the first words I would speak as an individual existing in this unity field, I would say, I am Aurea. And the way I say it in my language is Ethia Aurea, which means I am Aurea. And when this is done, when this is performed, right, it cuts off this connection, because as I've shared before, everything is inscribed, is encoded in your creation name. Your creation name is your power. Everything is written in it, your powers, your gifts, your abilities. It disconnects your source connection, so you can't receive lumen light directly from source, and it isolates you. And then you don't know how to find the healing path. There's many, many things that it does, and they're all having a domino effect. And I had to become a part of this energy physically, because Illumined light intelligence does not hybridize. It goes within, it goes in, and it jumps into the energy that is being liberated. And it's exploring it, and it's therefore, as it's exploring it and it's experiencing it, it's already illuminating it, and it's pushing it away inside, and it's dissolving it. But you can't do it alone. So in this last stage, I was actually trained that now I have to join a greater aspect of the group, because all advanced work, you as an identity that is the self, which is super powerful as it may be, you can't do that step alone. It has to be a group effort. So on that day, we started building a sacred circle, and suddenly I came into presence. I make the connection with a group presence of elder trees, which are elder tree spirits whose roots are not just going down to the earth below, but they go all the way to the earth's core, and they're golden. And these tree beings are incredible anchors. These are amazingly old beings. They're not just ancestors, they're also cosmic antennas. And there's fewer and fewer of them also because of all the tree cutting that's happening, right? And the destruction of the natural world. But the problem is that you can only work with these energies through love. And when you cut the living life that is Gaia, that is the life of the goddess, you're literally cutting off love. You're cutting off love's supply to everything that is natural and organic. So we felt, a lot of the sensitive ones, we felt the drainage of life force, and we felt life is getting kind of bleak and dull. What's happening? We felt it. We've all felt it. So suddenly I connect to this group of beings. It was a group consciousness, and it gave me a name almost instantly, and the name is Algoran. It is an elven name, yes. It is its name, it is its creation name. And that day we did an amazingly long activation, and we connected the sky of the entire Lumen Council of Light and all the beings that I personally also know myself. I don't know personally all of them, but the ones I know personally, and the group collective, and we've connected the sky, which is the heavens, the true heavens, not the astral heaven. And we created this infinity loop movement, and we connected it with all the guardians of these illumined tree elders and tree spirits that are basically so primordial. And they said finally, because they were waiting for this. And the amazing thing about Aurea, when she works through me, and I'm learning more about myself as Aurea, is that she's not just skilled in her own work, but she kind of weaves things and energies and people together. And even as a physical human, I was always like that. I kind of always connected the dots, connected people, brought the energies together, which is kind of the energy, right, of embodying of the white ray, which is the ascension ray, and the ray of connectivity, and it connects all the other rays together. It is also the ray of connection of all the other rays. It's not just the ray of purity and harmony and ascension. So finally that step was created, right? Getting the final piece. And then after these steps and all created, and I was being trained to dissolve holograms and how to do that. And I had this profound meditation I explained on Patreon on my page. And it was the first time that I felt the effortless nature of God, and how as a human I can now do this work effortlessly. I don't have to stumble and struggle as a sovereign being, yes, but also an alone entity, right? An alone identity, doing it alone and struggling also a lot as a human because of that. It's one thing to be a free spirit in your original light body, and it's the other thing to be human. As humans, we have weaknesses, vulnerabilities. So a part of my human journey was also to bring all the human traits of my vulnerability into powers, into points of power. So turning these, let's say, emotional knots and trigger points that, you know, these beings use to manipulate us through that, because that's what they do. They literally ensnare, captivate, and instill fear. They traumatize our human child, so it couldn't fully wake up to the powers that it holds as a light being, right? So these last few steps were crucially important, and I really felt my work as a specific sovereign Aurea is complete. But I also was a little worried. Sorry about the noise. I was a little worried because I thought, you know, now when I can have this knowledge and to dissolve holograms and many, many advanced things, I'm going to be attacked again, because this was usually the tactic so far. So I asked all the beings, the lumen ones, I said, do I have your back? Do I have your protection? Because, you know, if I do this work, I need all of you too. And there's one being I mentioned to you before, and his name is Lamayan. This being, I cannot express how humble, modest, and worshiping, you know, this being literally, I would say, he worships the ground I walk on, not in a negative sense, not in a blindfolded sense. But he sees me, he truly sees me, and whenever he comes and interacts with us, he would say, I would risk my own body for you. I would sacrifice everything because that's how much I believe in you, he says. He's incredible. This being is truly what we can call an Illumined Master. And there's many beings you don't know. There's also many beings that as a human I don't know, but I know the group I work with, and they're all amazing beings, and all the glory of God goes to them, and of course glory to God. Life everlasting, life eternal. So the key point was getting to this essence of life eternal. And I realized the steps and important necessities that we don't have to suffer, because when I was going through the notions of this, I many times asked, and I checked in with the masters, with the other fellow masters, and Jesus would come in, Jesus, ascended Master the Christ, and he would say, you know, you're already liberating yourself out of the shackles. He said, but many are still suffering in silence, and many don't even know what this is and why they're feeling this way. Some already are. They're starting to wake up, but they don't know how to heal yet. They don't have the answers and the tools. And that's the reason why I've been talking about this for so long. Not so people can yawn and say, that doesn't concern me, but for people like that. But you know what? Also for everyone. And I'll explain these last few expressions, and I hope I have your attention, because I really truly hope that through this message Aurea wants to share through me, I will be able to reach you, because you will all be able now to invest in this. We're no longer needing to do this as alone, because that's the final step. Aurea is telling me, I've connected the Illumined realms now with the Earth Elders. I did the link up because when I went through this recent experience, this Algoran essence spoke through, and it said, now all the impact you've left, every footstep of love you planted. You know how much I love nature, right? And how I was a nature kid all my life, but especially this last 7 to 8 years when I lived in these Alps since 2013. I was just outside. I was outdoors most of my time. I couldn't stay in. I knew that it wasn't just because, oh, I'm an outdoors kind of person. I knew there's more to it. And this being, this presence said, everything went into the earth, and now the entire organic structure is starting to receive the pulse, and it knows now as well what the work is that it's supposed to be focusing on and doing. So now all are starting to help, all is starting to wake up and pulsate with this. And now the last step is this, what Aurea wants to share through me today, about the human factor, about the human family, because funnily enough, the human family has been so hypnotized, put to sleep, that we're still so used to this, yeah, mine and mine alone. I don't care. Yeah, it's my spiritual growth. Yeah, it's my, this and that. And people will say, I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't concern me. You know what? It concerns everyone, because where do you exist? You exist in this 3D realm, on this earth. Where is Earth? It's in the solar system. Where is the solar system? It's in this universe. It's in this galaxy. So therefore, you're a part of it. So therefore, it does concern you. You are here. You're not in an alternate universe. You are here. You're all here. And let me tell you something. I hope my message will touch these few individuals who will, if not, starting to do the work that I'm teaching that is very vitally important to increase our divine illumined intelligence of life force mastery, building our tantric essence, knowing how to work with it. And they were training me, and I'm training now my group how to descend the energy into the body, because that's where we all should be. It's in the feminine principle, and this energy does not know love. It does not know the feminine principle, so it works on hijacking the consciousness, putting it into the higher mental planes of the archonic design. That's what it's doing. And a lot of people are constantly training to knowledge, gathering more. And someone even said to me, the more I know, the more I want to know. That's an addiction. It's toxic. Don't you see? It's not how we are. We are beings of love. We're God sent. We're God creatures. And so how does this not concern everyone, may I ask you? So what also happened, right, is that at the end of November, if you remember, I had my first session with the divine companion, with a beautiful being, very sentient, very sensitive being who came to me. They were told by someone, I don't know how they found me, but they said they were told that I'm the only one who can help them with their problem. And they were so traumatized, as I explained at first, that they didn't even know how to speak about it. And they were afraid of talking about it so they wouldn't get hurt or punished. And we now had 2 sessions in these following months. And a lot came through when we were working with the inner child and with the traumatization of the inner child. And you have to know, when these energies, what they're doing is they're fragmenting aspects of the soul, and they're putting them in false orbits. So you're literally needing to orbit around something. You remember when I was talking about the Castor and Pollux constellation, when I was doing my own inner child healing last winter, and I got this constellation, and when the impulses were coming through these beings. And again, when I say beings, there's only truly 2 main types of beings in this universe. Celestial angelics, or lumen beings, and the fallen angelics, which are basically what we call extraterrestrials. They're all physical, different various degrees. And then there's beings who've completely abandoned. They're actually very high beings in intelligence, but they don't hold bodies. They're kind of existing like mental plane. They became like planes of reality. They kind of embedded themselves within their creation, but they don't have bodies, and we call them phantom beings. And these beings actually merge their kind of this overall consciousness with these lesser ET beings, so they're kind of being hypnotized and trained or entranced through them. Now when you look at our system, the governments, the politicians, and you would say, why are they all puppets and acting this way? Because everyone is in a way a part of this trance. It's a trance collective. It's a society of hypnosis. And how these experiments that many of these facets and fractions of these beings are doing, they're doing it at different levels and degrees, depending what kind of being you are and how interesting you are to them. Some remain untouched because they're simply not rendered as important. I mean, they're rendered as not important. And either way, when you start elevating your consciousness to a certain degree, you become interesting, right? You become, ooh, a snack. You hold a sufficient amount of light that now you become interesting to them. So I would say, if you're a spiritual being and you're walking your spiritual purpose and you say, that doesn't concern me, I don't know about this energy, I'm listening to you for years, but I think you're just jibber-jabbering, then that's not for you, and close the video and go away, walk away. Go in your own close space of separation and thinking this doesn't concern you, and probably you exist in your own alternate universe, right? That's fine. Many people like that. Then there's people who are, you know, recently someone approached me under this name of, yeah, we're this order Melchizedek, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I don't even want to hear the word Melchizedek. It is a fallen group of beings. They're all masculines. Even the feminines, they entrain them into the masculine prototype and principle. They're all based on knowledge. They're all, you know, like on earth we would call false gurus, but it's even worse. Because they're all magicians in a negative sense. And when there's beings who are naive and they look at these names, oh, that sounds so fancy, and they take up that name. I see many beings, right, writing their name and then the word Melchizedek. I would say just cut that off of your name because it's not your name. Do you want it to be? I might sound upset. I'm not upset. I need to speak about these things passionately because people are blind. They don't know what they suddenly become a part of simply by taking on a name. Who are you serving? If you truly serve God, if you are yourself an innocent child of God, an innocent child of creation, you will be your sovereign. You will join no societies, no groups, no affiliations. Remember again, our group only calls themselves the Tantrikas, which simply means we're divine trinities. We don't have a specific name. We don't have an affiliation. We don't have a mystical school for the select chosen ones. The reason why I dispensate my teachings in a closed format now is because the world has become wacko, and not everyone is meant to see what I'm talking about. It is dangerous when it comes into wrong hands. And it's not because I'm cheap or, I don't know, suddenly I'm suddenly no longer wanting to talk about it. I'm still talking about it. Someone recently said, oh, the end of, your sharing. No, my sharing continues. I've explained how many avenues I have. I have Telegram group. I do almost daily updates there. Now you can join me. It's called Ascension Pioneers, same name, except it's a Telegram group. You can find the links in my information section. And then I have my Patreon page called Illumined Ascension, and all the deeper work is there. And then there's people who are, just there out of curiosity, and there's people who've been spreading false information or false, we would say, disinformation about me for years, and talking bad and talking crap about me. Just because I don't follow anyone and I don't become a part of this because I'm 24/7 busy with my work, that's all it's leave me with, doesn't mean that I don't know. I know. I'm tuning into it. Since the first time I appeared, I was gossiped over. I was interesting and fascinating, and all those who are interesting are always gossip. And people who spread false information about other people are usually those who never even spoken one word with them. People who spread lies and rumors about me and tell me how I am and I'm blah, blah, blah and vicious or whatever. These people have never had one conversation with me, because every being who's ever had a session with me, they know me much more than just through these general video updates. These people have always received the greatest blessing of their life. And it's not spoken from an egoic space. Because these people really experience how it is to be seen and loved so much that even they themselves did not know such love exist. That's what I'm about. I'm about love, but I also need to speak about these things as they are. And love is truth. Love doesn't say, well, love says, let's expose this. And I can't sweet talk about it. That's not love. Love is not sweet talking. I have to be fierce. And when I was going to these energies and jumping in, I was being told by other master beings, Jesus the Christ himself told me, he said, you have to be fearless and fierce. And I said, I'm ready. I'm doing it. Because I myself, my human counterpart, often said, I don't want to. Why me? Why me? You know, when you ask that question, why me? Every great being who ever had an important purpose always eventually asked themselves, why me? Right? It's normal. It's a part of our human self, our human psyche. And so because these beings, right, they can change these orbital patterns, you can become kind of locked in for a very long time, and there's a part of you looping around that instead of being in a natural orbital pattern of God, because God is the force of life that keeps planets revolving naturally around the suns, and then those solar systems around the central suns, and those around the galaxy, and it all works in the ebb and flow of life. However, there's energies who have a God complex, who want to play God, and they want to create their own orbital patterns. Let me tell you something. There's nothing stronger than the essence of God and how you use it. When you know yourself as God, you will use your power. And this is the part I need to speak to now. So when I had that session, I saw how now I'm finally able to see what others are also going through. And it made more sense why I had to go through such hard training. Because it's not that easy. It's not that easy to just be liberated if you don't really know who you are. And a lot of people might say, I know who I am. No, you don't, if you don't know your creation name. But there's also falsificates about that, so please be careful. Not every name is correct. You have to receive it directly through God, and not every being right now, I'm sorry to say this, plugs in directly into God consciousness. We all could, but we don't because of so much fall and so much interferences. So there's like this thick barrier. It is loosening up due to the work we've already performed, but it's not enough. We need more. We are now counting on the illumined human factor. And working with this person, right, has been challenging for me because each time after a session with them, right, I went and I tuned into that energy again. And at night, remember when I said I traced the signal with a frequency, right? And then afterwards I had painful discharges and jolts again through my body. So I just recently had another session. We deepened the experience with this being. Same night, I wake up from another phantomic experience. So it's always the same. I found myself in my astral body. It's not, you know, when you're asleep, but you're not asleep. You're in that astrally awake state. You're not awake in your physical body, not yet. And then it's always me in the dark room. And then suddenly I find a portal through my third eye. I don't know. I just know where to go. And I see this kind of revolving, you know, the thing, when I say it's the hypnotic wheel, it's through what they use. They hypnotize and they put people in the state that they're feeling like they're drugged. And my, I'm not going to say client, a companion said to me as well, I'm drugged half of the time. I'm like in a paralysis. And I can't feel in my own way, right? It's like someone working through me, and I can't feel as an organic being, right? How would you say that's normal? It's not, right? And so I went into this energy again, but this time was, you know, each time I'm kind of more aware how to do it. And this time when I entered into energy, I went in it like, have you ever seen this part in the Hobbit movie when Galadriel fights this dark being? They're like, oh, she uses all of her power, just like holding it. And I was holding the energy, and the more I was going, like I was piercing through the energy, the more I was being myself ensnared by this hypnotic energy. Like you can't feel your body anymore. Like your body's falling asleep. You're literally being hypnotized. It's a state of paralysis. That's what these energies do. And I'm in it, and I'm just reminding myself, I am Aurea. I am Aurea. It's okay. I'm Aurea. I'm Aurea. Just, that's the key. Knowing your power of God, knowing that you are of God, knowing your creation name, and then breath work. And then I started breathing, like breathing through it. And I was discharging the energy. I literally felt it cracking. I never heard cracking sounds before. It was like all cracking, this like web. And suddenly I hear something in my left ear, and it was like an alien, masculine alien voice, like something like spoken like this. It was terrible. It wasn't pretty. It was like I was detecting their signal, and I was kind of dissolving. Because you have to know, not every being knows how to do that themselves. So as Aurea's consciousness descendant, I often would jump into this energy. And because I was doing this And I was told by master beings now for these last 2 years, you're not doing this just for yourself. And a part of me didn't want to believe it because it felt like, why? Why do I have to? I don't wanna, why would I have to suffer for others? And they said, simply because you know how. Because that was your vow to God. That's what you agreed upon. And it later made sense. Because when I saw how difficult it is for others, I realized, well, of course, the one who knows how to do it, even as I'm as a human still learning, in spirit I know. And if I only trust in the power of my spirit, that's all it takes. And to know the prayer, oftentimes when I would wake up from these energy distortions and I go into them, and it's terrible because I can't feel my body anymore. I'm in it, and I'm just reminding myself, I'm Aurea, breathe, 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 you're doing it. And then suddenly I'm awake again in the physical body. And all is well. But now I also have a great method that I was trained. And like I said, the moment I received that, I had a dream that night, beings watching me, and they were like, oh, now she knows. Oh, now she has all the answers, because I would retrieved all that was really important for me to retrieve from Aurea and descend it here in my physical body, and then use it when I do this like astral projection work. And it's difficult because I'll tell you, a part of me, my human self, is like, I don't want to do this. And the realization is that I myself won't always be able to do it until I'm here in the physical body, until I ascend, which one day soon I know I will, because it's my choice, that's my path. But I came here to cause a powerful wave, and now that wave has to start really gaining momentum. This is where we are now. The wave it needs that thrust. And now when we've connected this earthly illuminating elders and illumined realms, and now the human factor needs to come into being. This is why I'm doing this video. I'm not back, or I haven't changed my mind or something, if that's what you're wondering. This is simply something that I received as a vision. As much as I refused it, I'm surrendered to divine will since my awakening. There's nothing I can do but be aligned with divine will. I go where it takes me. I can't refuse things. When it's shown, I have to do it. And this human factor now is the last thing I want to talk about. How do you all come in here? How can you all engage in this fearlessly? You don't have to jump into these energies in no means possible, because no one can do that kind of work if they don't have the proper training. It's like a suicidal mission. Don't do that. But the way you can assist is something very simple you can do. And it's something also that I received through the inner child work that I did with the client. When we were working on that, swirling around the false orbital pattern and kind of pulling that aspect back. So we had a vision, and I took the being to a space of their light beingness and realizing that they're not alone. And in this space when we're existing as light beings, we all kind of use our vehicles, and these vehicles are like, we each have our own Merkaba vehicle, that's what moves the life force, and that's what we use to propel ourselves anywhere, and it's the freedom of movement. And these beings, the transgressors, they want our gifts. They want to understand, how are we so simply like this? How do we do things so easily? What makes us so powerful? God does. But as you know, they've separated themselves from what God is a long, long time ago, eons ago. And some of them will probably not return the way we would like to imagine. Because there's another story behind this, which is the separation and movement into the new universe, which is literally truly what a new dimension means. It's a different universe, if you truly know what dimensions mean. They're different aspects of what we call the universe. It's no longer a material universe when you truly ascend into the next dimension. You can rise and literally gradually ascend through densities, but an actual physical ascension into a different dimension, it's what it means, a different plane of the universe. Like the dimensions have different planes of reality, what we would say different densities. Universe itself also has densities of the universe. So we literally would split and go into a different part of the universe, and it's not physical. And it doesn't contain these lesser fallen energies. And like I said, these energies are ensnaring and enticing these purest, most precious children of the mother. And hence my prophetic dream again, right, with the hand of the mother saying these and these and these. And we knew exactly which souls wanted to be free and which ones are ready, and they will join, and they will return home, and they will ascend. But you have to also know that the universal web works in cycles. It's not linear time as we know it, but everything is scheduled in terms of it's timed. And once you would stagnate enough and you don't make even one step, you've passed, the deadline. It's passed. And recently, a lot of work I do is also with specific beings that are so deeply entrained, they don't want to wake up either. And their soul wants them to wake up. And sometimes they would present as very stubborn. And particularly, there's someone like this that I know, that I work with as Aureas, in spirit, not physically. And I would always check in where they are and tune into them. And in one of the visions, I would receive them spontaneously. I saw myself as Aurea handing like a clock, like a golden clock to them. It was like one of those clock medallions, and they looked. And it was 6 in the afternoon, which literally, if you translate in terms of quarters, it's the last quarter. And the being looks at me happy, like, oh, I still have time. They were happy about it. And yet the last quarter, it's what it means. It's the last quarter. Do you see? That's where we are now. There's still time. But please don't make this into something trivial, because it is the most important thing now. It's the last step for beings who are ready to graduate from this, to realize that true compassion means that you can't feel as a sovereign, just as a lone sort of sovereign entity. Even if you're a sovereign being, you can only experience greater love and true compassion in coexistence, in a communal sense, in a community. So starting to commune. You don't have to have physical, relationship or something. But there is a communing through spirit, which is now becoming vitally important. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. And I'm going to ask you for your help and assistance on the behalf of Illumined ones, because they're the ones asking, not me personally. I would rather be doing something else, to be honest, than recording another video for YouTube. But they've asked me to ask you to become engaged. How? First, stop running away from the fact that this is the main thing, the main problem, that it does exist. Stop covering your eyes and saying, oh, maybe it's a possibility, maybe she speaks the truth. Realize that not I as an I, but we as all the Illumined ones are dealing with this. And we're all speaking the truth. I'm just translating it on the behalf of many, many Illumined beings. Third, realize that you yourself are part of this problem. It's because the consciousness, when it's a consciousness of a specific population so slow and dense, and focused on individual self, me, I, the energy drops. And a race of being becomes very ignorant. And we have many, many ignorant people. Even, or sometimes even especially in the spiritual community. I want to use this example again. I'm not like a biblical reader or, scripture reader, but in many scriptures you have stories of random people, common people. They did not have galactic knowledge. They did not have specific, information. They were common beings. And when it was time for them to fight through the power of faith, they used the power of faith to move mountains. Remember when Jesus, Master the Christ, said, if only your faith is the power of a mustard seed, it has the power to grow and change, influence the whole. And because we're so scattered, each to our own, and now with this whole, quarantine, you have to know, this quarantine that we have physically is simply a mirror of what is as above. And when we say, as above, so below, it's not like, oh, as in heaven, so here. As in the astral plane heaven. When all the falsification first happens, then so here on earth. The manipulation starts there. So you have to uncover it, right? And you have to realize that you also are part of the problem. Faith. If the faith in God is not true, you have people who are supposedly quasi-spiritual but have no faith in God. If you truly have faith in God, you know that your heart beats with the sacred fire of the divine. And that because you're also God, you're God's child, the same sacred fire was placed in your birth crib. It's your natural birthright, and you can use the sacred fire. If you don't use it, it starts to stiffen or be stiffened and stifled, right? And stale, and stagnation arises, and hence these beings have greater leverage, and you stop having it. And fourth, start thinking about how this affects the whole. All your brothers and sisters, where's brotherly, sisterly love? Remember how Jesus Christ, Master, taught about this. When we worked in a sacred circle, when he came, he was one of the beings that was in our circle we worked with. He said, I'm bringing forth, we each brought something to the circle. He said, I'm bringing brotherhood and sisterhood. And if everyone would live like you two live, we truly have heaven on earth. But we don't. Because people don't work this way. They don't every day show up as this was the only chance, that this was the greatest time of their life, and they can do everything and they can risk their love for someone. Just like those stories of the old, when you have common people risking everything for those they loved. Not just what we call family. They did it for their nation to be free, right? They spoke about, the true leader said, I want my nation to be free. Where does the nation begin? It begins with someone you love. All the children, all the star children, all the brothers and sisters. So stop avoiding this. Stop not acknowledging it. Acknowledge it head straight. Say, I am ready, willing, and able to fully see this, to see this phenomena. I'm willing to see. Let God show me the truth. God will eventually show you the truth. That's what God wants. God wants all the children to see the truth, not just a few select ones. And then start using the power of prayer. I ask you, every day, if you can, those of you who feel called, if not, it's not for you and you're not there yet to understand what true love means. True love is not just a partnership with someone of the opposite gender, or, same gender, it doesn't matter. True love is sacrificial. It's brotherly, it's sisterly, it's for the mother, it's for the father, it's for all life in creation. That's what love is. And all these people who are gossiping on me and telling me how I am, they don't know nothing about how much I love. And for the people that are in that do sessions with me or have sessions with people who are in my group, I go to the far back end and back. And I would always check up on them, even when the timing is over, always, constantly. I go to the far lengths and all the extent for my human angels here. And all people who gossip, they have foul mouth. God hears, okay? God cries every time people act against their own mirror. Everyone is a mirror, remember? So if everyone is a mirror, if I suffer through this in order for others to be free, and if others are still entrapped and entrained in this, and some are starting to heal, some are still, there are different stages of where other star children are at. But remember, you can be as well. There's people who themselves have a form of hypnosis, but they don't even know. And this is far worse than just random spells and magic and curses. This is really earth-based level. This is the kind of energy it's very hard to move through without, losing a form of rationality. Because at times when you enter this energy, it feels like, oh my God, I'm never going to wake up in my body again. And I've been explaining about this on Patreon as some of the experiences I had. And one of the dreams, when I was moving through these realms, and when I experienced what I said, fake ascension, and how everything was designed there, fake design, was barely moving my body, barely breathing, but I was doing it. I used the power of faith. So if the commoners could do it without any knowledge, all those of you who've been tuning into my videos, I've shared all about this. There's no secrets out there. You don't need a mystery school now to be a part of this. You simply chose to watch the videos. And if you have, you can also choose to do something about it, because I'm really sick and tired, to be honest, of this and then out. I'm not a strict school teacher, but I am really encouraging everyone to start thinking how this affects the whole of life in creation. Because if this is not eventually seen for what it is and resolved, there will be an entire realm of hypnosis that I don't know how, if it gets too far, will wake up. Sorry, you have to know the worst case scenarios as well. I have very good news. I have very positive news about the current movements, but I cannot work alone with this anymore. Our team simply had and brought the gift. We brought the pulsar of light. I'm teaching all the techniques. There will be, at the finish line of this month, there will be 6 spiral, Illumined Ascension, golden spiral teachings, how you can use simple principles of illumined light to establish protocols of illumination in your own body. When you know how to do that, you're far less of a victim. You grow in your power. You become more and more Christ in action, in body. We brought these techniques because we know them. They're gifts. All it takes is just a little bit of, encouragement on your part, taking a step. and not sitting silently behind the wheel when you're not even driving it. You know how many people are in their vehicles, but they're not even driving. There's other forces driving them. There's people who are in their spells. They believe they're having their own thoughts. They believe they're living their own reality. No, they're not. If it's not something you really desire, you're not living your reality. I'm sorry. If you're waking up every day to something and it's not your highest reality, it's not what your desire is, then it's not fully your creation, right? You have to start unveiling what's behind this phenomenon. Why? And I've been talking about it for years now, and lately I've been like splurging with content on Patreon and all about this. And people who are close to understanding this, they've had very strong reactions to this. Because everyone, when they're presented with something that shows you that you're still not fully free, will have an emotional response to this. Like, oh, I didn't realize I'm still carrying so much burden. I didn't realize I'm still, oh my goodness, what? How? Because the moment you see it, you're already starting to release it. But when you don't know that you're not here to hold these burdens, you're going to continuously hold them. As long as you think you need to, right? But you don't have to. But what you also need right now is the human factor, which is starting to implement the prayer, not just for yourself. Like, oh God, please, oh, give me my partner, this and that. Oh, give me the best looking house and, let me be popular. I know usually people who watch my videos are not like that, but either way, when it's something for the self, you have to start adding prayer. And we have to start aiming our prayers for this exactly. So what I do, right, when I entered this energy, consciously went into it today to liberate, it was all cracking. I couldn't sleep. I slept 4 hours this night. And I said, my work is not done. I went downstairs. We lit a candle. We did the ceremony. We called in the group consciousness. We connected. And this is when the Algoran, this elder tree consciousness, began to speak. And it was showing now how the earth started shaking and acting. And it was shown that I won't have to do it alone anymore. I was alone in the beginning. But now we've gathered enough resources and forces to work with us for this liberation. That all star children can be free again. That you yourself can be free, because everyone right now who's still here, who hasn't ascended yet, I'm still here in order to assist others, so I'm not ascended yet. I have to be here until I vow myself to be here to assist with this phenomena and with the ascension of the whole. And you also are here because you're not fully free either. So where to start? Do you want to be? Some people don't want to be. They like being told. They like to be narrated. But there's beings who just want to be in their own immaculate state of purity again. They just don't know how. So for beings like that, for beings like, for example, my client or others people who are in this, and some don't even know what this is, they just always have symptoms, and they're always like external energy guiding them. They can't be sovereign in their own bodies. You know what sin this is? This is sin. And we have to start praying as a group. You have to start adding this to your prayers. You don't have to, actually. But you can. You can choose it. Like, I chose to come here. I also didn't have to. The beings asked, we came. The life force of the divine came, and we answered the call. You don't have to answer the call. But if you can, why not? So I'm going to show you how simple this prayer is. We have to start invoking our prayers with candle, because candle represents the flame that burns within us, and the flame of spirit. Try using preferably plant wax-based candle. If not, nature will forgive you, because you're actually doing it for sacred purposes. Not everyone can find or buy these more expensive candles, and that's okay. But when you use anything for sacred purposes, the violet fire will dissolve much of the so-called impurities, or not, purest essences we're using. Invoke in the name of God, holy light, holy love, and holy union, which is divine trinity. Illumined light, illumined love, and union, which is sacred. It's Hieros Gamos. Always pray through the Trinity and invoke the Trinity. Then invoke all the other beings who serve this Trinity, all illumined beings, all illumined light beings, and masters, ascended masters, all who are in any way, shape, or form are working for the betterment, advancement, and ascension of the evolutionary planet part. But mostly, right, the evolution goes for the souls who are here, who are still here. And then when you do that, First, surround yourself with this light so that you exist in this overarching illumined state. And then ask that your part, a part of your sacred fire, a part of that which is your passion for life, that you love life. Because if you love life, right, you want life to be free. If you're standing on standby mode, you don't really love life that much that you think you do. You know that. If you truly love life, the way Aurea loves life, the way illumined beings love life, you can as well. The way the mother loves life, and every single one of us. We have those divine qualities inherent in our sacred flame here. And we can learn to proliferate it through our bodies. And I've been teaching life force mastery and cultivation because of that. Not to be a smarty pants. And so when you invoke this, invoke the threefold flame within yourself, and then ask God to use through the power of faith. Nothing will be taken away from you, but ask that a part of you that is overlighted, anointed with the light of an intelligence of God that is illumined light, illumined love, and unity, union, to work on your behalf, that God can work through you, and God can, invoke your prayers, can answer your prayers, and send life force currents into the situations that are so stagnant, hijacked, tormenting, hybridizing, all these things, brainwashing and training through energy frequencies and ray weaponry and all these things. Ask that a portion of your sacred flame is now used for the greater good, service to all life. You can always invoke me as Aurea Dawn, as an illumined being. Invoke all the beings, also your guides. Your guides are also learning from this. Do know that. So when you're praying like this, they're also praying like this. And then what you will do, imagine and feel that all these fragmented parts that are orbiting around something unnatural, that are being kind of hooked into that. You can either visualize it as a spaceship or something unnatural. And then around that, visualize, see, and feel the try-on quality that is God. Have you ever seen these images of Dante's Paradiso, right? The threefolded nature of God. Like God is a powerful source, like the grand central sun, the source of all life that is illumined and proliferates through life, moves through life. And visualize that. It's like little white with yellow gold, and then magenta or fuchsia pink, and then this azure blue. That's the Trinity, right? The love, wisdom, and power, the nature of God. And pour your own sacred fire into that. And visualize that essence of God around those entranced, violated, hybridized, transgressed aspects that are still kind of held captive, because your prayers will be answered and you will act on the behalf of God. The other choice is to walk away and never be a part of anything that we do anymore. I wish you good luck. I really do. Even people who take these things lightly and they don't appreciate or respect me and what I share, I also love them. I still love them. I still wish them blessings. I still wish them fulfillment. But the thing is that at the greater level, even that which is for us seemingly as personal fulfillment that is temporary is still temporary, and it can get much worse if we don't act now, just like with our situation, right? Physically, it's all a reflection of what is in quarantine. For me, myself, no matter how difficult this was, I made it alive. Not only that, I thrived. I exited this as a illumined human master, not just Aurea, spirit, illumined being master. And not master to impose. True master serves. They use their own expansion to serve the expansion of God in its language, that is love. Love is the most powerful force in the universe, we always say, right? It's no coincidence. Then why the love is the answer. And when you do this meditation at the end, pour all your love and simply say, I wish, my intention is that all beings, all God's children are free. All God's children have to be free. It is my own divine birthright and will. You have to claim it as your will, even if you believe you're not a part of this. Use your will for the greater will. Put your part, insert your part into this passionately. And feel for the maybe some of you, first time in your life, how does it feel to love that all life is free? Love life into freedom. Living to love life into freedom, into liberation. And feel compassion for those who suffer. While you yourself, maybe some people are privileged. Nothing specific of dark has ever happened to them. Well, then maybe use your resources if you were so privileged to help and assist. And it's not a judgment. Even if you don't, you're still a child of God. I'm just saying you always have a choice. And every master will tell you the same. Every being who truly sacrifices themselves for the plan that is the illumined grand design of life, the liberty of life and the victory of God. Use your sovereign power. I've learned through my own experiences now how to truly be myself, how to work with these energies, how to truly raise up the energies and when to lay low, when to go up. It's a state of the art. It's not always going to be required of us to go up, 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 up. No, sometimes we're going to have to go very down below into the body. And I'm learning this refinement now, and that's one of the main reasons why I can no longer do this work. And the second is the outside circumstances and the impact of the presences that are sometimes gather around the public content that the darkness sends there to spy. And that's not my intention. But I can do these last few calls, and I'm telling you, I won't be calling out for more. I will only do it once. But you will have some time to choose and how way you can participate. Ask God, how can you best participate? But the prayer I just showed you is one of the most powerful prayers you can do. And use it together with candlelight. People who are very tormented, sometimes they don't even know how to pray. I'm going to show you one very simple prayer. When you're deeply in disturbance and distress and you think, oh, God has forsaken me, oh, what's happening? You're constantly in the mind. You cannot escape your mind anymore. Put your hands like this and simply say, I have faith in my Lord that is God, that is one God, that is eternal life. God, give me, show me this eternal life. Give me eternal life, please, God. It's my only desire, is life eternal. Show me how to be free. Give me life eternal. That's what the liberation into Christ means. That you are aware that life is eternal. That's why these beings who possess this understanding, like Jesus Christ did, and used this in his own ascension work to transfigure himself. When the most people thought he died, he didn't die. He transfigured. That's a different thing. And when you know this gift, what do you do with it, right? To use it for good or for evil. You can only use the Christ for good. That's the thing. But with the lesser aspects of consciousness that are not yet fully Christ, you can always use for either good or evil. The choice is yours. And when you know this gift of life, that is eternal, you're going to truly understand what does it mean to be an immortal self. This doesn't mean now, no, someone cut your leg off, you bleed to death, you don't die. You know, might be a case scenario. It's a very drastic example. But if you're taking good care of yourself, you're very conscious, you're working with your life force consciously, no energy that's attacking you cannot just kill you off. Because there's many ways and means that are invisible that are able to do that to human bodies. But when you know life eternal, you're instantly automatically nullifying that. And it's only done through the unity principle that I've recently learned. And these 6 spiral workings, these are spiral ascension teachings, are available on Patreon. But I'm still finding out a way, I don't know how, maybe once it's complete, that I would offer these spiral teachings separately for people who want to benefit from these teachings, but they don't want to go on Patreon. That's fine. And for those of you who want to stay updated with my work, which is never ending, 24/7, and it's never over until I'm here, and even when I exit this plane of reality, I'm still going to be working, serving. So find my Telegram channel, my group called Ascension Pioneers. Join me there. I'll be sharing my work updates there from now on. Also, sometimes I share some insights about this path of Christ discipleship and Illumined Union. But for those of you who want to go deeper, you know, Illumined Ascension is where to find me on Patreon. And thank you for watching. I want to also thank you for my latest 2 videos that were a while ago. Those few of you who donated, but I always say few is better than none, and I was happy about that. I wish to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And those of you who might ever feel the call to do so, you're always welcome. You're free to do so. And you're doing it basically for yourself as well, to feel the load off. How does it feel to be in that kind of alignment when you just freely offer what you can through gratitude? Not out of particular reason, perhaps, per se. Thank you for being with me here. Think about the words. Contemplate on what I shared with you today. It's very important. Because you are also part of these star children. And we still need to work on those that are still here. That still need our voice, our embrace, and our prayers. And those of you who might feel called to work with me one-on-one, even though I'm not here as a presence on YouTube collectively, I will always do sessions one-on-one. This is where I can go much deeper into my work, and that's what I love doing the best. Thank you for watching. Thank you for loving and feeling and going beyond the appearances and the words and the way they sound sometimes. I will simply just say, Aurea. I love you. As always, so much love is in power. May the light, love, and the union of God always be within you.